Welcome to the marvelous work and a wonder. At no time during the history of our world has a place existed where a person can go and ask any question about their human existence and have that question answered with authority, clarity, and completeness. Many of the great and marvelous things that have been hidden from our understanding since the foundation of this world will be revealed. We've always known these real truths. They exist, hidden in the back of our mind within the confines of our imagination. Within the human mind, seeds of imagination sprout into belief systems of philosophy and religion. But these do not answer the basic questions of our existence. Who are we, and why do we exist? Religion and philosophy have produced fruits of discord, prejudice, and hate. These things are destroying our humanity. The purpose of the marvelous work and a wonder is to introduce the real truth about our existence as human beings. Within its answers, the solutions to our human problems are found. Most of our problems are a cause of our ignorance, and our current experience upon this earth manifests the influence of this ignorance. The marvelous work and a wonder is where current reality meets real truth.
Can't hear you, see? Can't hear you.
My bad, and welcome to the class. Those of you who are attending the University of Real Truth and Eternal Intelligence class today, Saturday, June 13th, 2026. And we're live streaming for a few minutes here to the rest of the world because I have a message. And for those who don't know who I am, let me introduce myself. My name is Christopher. Last name doesn't matter. I am the translator. I'm the author and proprietor of the sealed portion of the Book of Mormon. Let me give you an overview of exactly what that is for those who don't know. When I teach this class, I have a chalkboard. It's kind of a black screen. I'm a terrible artist, so bear with me. But I need to address something, especially the wealthiest church in this world. Now, if it hadn't become the wealthiest church in this world, I wouldn't have to address it, but I'm going to address it. It's called the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It is the wealthiest by far religion upon this planet in modern times. Many people recognize it as the Mormon Church. You see missionaries going throughout the world, thousands of them, and they bring a book. The book that they bring with them, that they tout to the world, is another word of God, like the Bible, is a book, and it's called the Book of Mormon. It's where they get their name. This book was published in 1830. It's called the Book of Mormon because the book, for all intents and purposes, was written by a guy named Mormon, who is one of the characters, the main characters in the story that is presented in this 1830 book of literature. It's a work. It's a book that was written. So, who am I? Let me show you who I am. Let me go here and let me just get rid of this thing here so I can put it down here. For those of you who don't know the story and don't know the history behind this work or this book, and before you, what you see right there are the gold plates. The narrative or the story begins with Joseph Smith back in 1823 being led, as the story goes, by the angel Moroni. That's the angel you see on top, a replica, a gold replica of which you see on top of many Latter-day Saint temples throughout the world. The story goes, and has been told, that Joseph Smith, as a 17-year-old teenager, was led to a place where these gold plates were hidden in the earth. Now, before you mock this, and before anybody mocks these things, if you do mock these things, it's because you are a rude, ignorant person who not only has not opened your mind up to the possibility that, wait a minute, could this be true, or is it all made up. That's something that you can determine for yourself. But before you mock it, before you can judge a book, don't you think you ought to read it to understand something about it? So, the gold plates is the standard foundation upon which the Latter-day Saint Mormon Church is built. Without the Book of Mormon, they would have nothing. They would just be another Reformation church that started in the United States of America back in the early 19th century. That's all they would be. They based their entire church and their religion on this 1830 Book of Mormon. Now, the gold plates were sealed, 2/3 of them, a part of which, the majority of which was sealed. That's what you see here. This is just a facsimile of the said plates. 2/3 were sealed. 1/3 was not. Joseph Smith, according to the writings and the narrative, the story expressed in this Book of Mormon, this unsealed portion, was only allowed to translate this part. This is what is known as the Book of Mormon. That's what you have. After Joseph Smith was done translating his part, the record says, or it is storied, that Joseph Smith gave these plates back to the angel Moroni. And what the angel Moroni did with them from that time on is a point of contention. A lot of people don't believe it. A lot of people don't believe that this angel Moroni even existed. Whether it existed or not, let me explain something to you, world. This sealed portion was finally translated by me through the exact same process that Joseph Smith translated the unsealed part. The exact same process was used by me in 2004 to translate the sealed portion. That's the beginning of this work, called throughout the world as a marvelous work and a wonder. Let me set a legal foundation for all of this, if I may, because this might be used in the future. Here is the 1830 title page, the original title page for the Book of Mormon in 1830. Let me erase these things so we can have a better, clearer picture. If you notice, the author and proprietor of this book is none other than Joseph Smith himself. He is the author and the proprietor. Sorry, I didn't mean to put that over there. Likewise, listen carefully. I am the author and the proprietor, the owner of the sealed portion of these gold plates, which I translated just like Joseph Smith did in 2004. This has been my testimony, and it is legally exactly what I would testify of in court. The exact same process by which Joseph Smith Jr. became the author and proprietor of the 1830 unsealed portion of the Book of Mormon. Yes, indeed. I am the author and proprietor of the 2004 sealed portion. Now, how can I make that claim? And what proof do I have that indeed, without bringing forth the plates themselves, what proof do I have that I am in possession of those plates, or was in possession of those plates? Because the plates are somewhere now that I'm not going to discuss at this time. The way that it can be proven is simple. One need only read the 1830 Book of Mormon, find out inside the Book of Mormon itself how important the sealed part, the greater part of these gold plates is, and then one need only read the sealed portion because it's a continuation. The sealed portion was written according to the characters presented therein by the son of Mormon, whose name was Moroni. Mormon wrote the unsealed part. This is an abridgment of some history. I don't want to go into all these details at this time because I need to make some legal declarations. But also Moroni put a few words in there. very important words, in fact, some of the most important that could be if we end up going to court against the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The words of Moroni are profoundly important. So one need only read the 1830 Book of Mormon and then read the 2004 Book of Mormon, which many, many people have, and one will find out, indeed, that these were written by the same author. Yeah. A college, the University of Arizona, back when this first was published in 2004, of course, there's been a lot of critics and enemies. They asked if they could use my personal autobiography. I had written sort of an autobiography up to that time, some of my own personal writings, and also the sealed portion. They wanted to compare through their computer algorithms, through some kind of a software that they had. They wanted to compare my personal autobiography, the 1830 Book of Mormon, and the 2004, the sealed portion of the gold plates. They wanted to do a comparison. And I told them, please do. I will give you permission to use my autobiography and the sealed portion, because I was the proper owner at the time, if and only if you publish the results of your computer program. Publish the actual results that you came up with. Well, when the results came back, it was hard for me to even get them out of them because they wouldn't publish them. Because what they found was this. They found that it was about a 98% chance, or 98% truth, that the guy who wrote the 2004 sealed portion wrote the 1830 Book of Mormon. 98%, according to their algorithms, the way they had set it up. Now, my autobiography, I think they came that it was about 87 or 86% chance that the guy who wrote my autobiography wrote the sealed portion, because that's what they believe. They believe that Joseph Smith, most people believe that Joseph Smith wrote the Book of Mormon and that I wrote the sealed portion. But when they ran their actual analyzation through their computer, do it now through artificial intelligence. Go ahead, whatever you got to do. But publish the results, please, and you will find that it is almost certain, because they have algorithms now and artificial intelligence that can tell. They can run both these books through their tests, just like DNA. So the DNA of the gold plates, we're talking about the DNA of the gold plates, 98% chance that whoever wrote the 1830 Book of Mormon wrote the 2004 sealed portion. So how did Christopher, who didn't live in the 1830s, write the 1830 Book of Mormon, and vice versa? How did whoever existed there in the 1830s write the sealed portion? Now, a lot of this has to do with grammar and other things. So let me tell you some of the empirical evidence now that is out there that will be published. It's called the 1828 Book of Lehi, the lost 116-page manuscript. As the story is told, Joseph Smith began his translation in about 1827. He would go to the place where he was shown these plates by, quote unquote, the angel Moroni. He would visit that same place for 4 years. For 4 years, he was first contacted by the angel Moroni, according to his story, in 1823. For 4 years, he returned to the exact same place to meet with, as the story goes, the angel Moroni, to discuss how these things were going to come about. What was the gold plates all about? What were they supposed to be about? So what we have verification that for 4 years, Joseph Smith didn't do anything about translating this book. It wasn't until 1827 that he began. He was 17 years old in September of 1823. 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, when he began. As many of you critics and enemies would say, he began to write the Book of Mormon. Well, there's a problem here. The problem comes in the narrative of the Book of Mormon itself. And this is where we have a legal issue with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Here is that issue, folks. Somebody needs to take ownership. Somebody needs to take ownership of these plates. Proprietarian, proprietor, I'm a terrible speller, so bear with me on there, of these gold plates. And that would be me. For all intents and purposes, as far as anything will be proven in a court of law, I am the owner of these plates. I use the exact same process that Joseph Smith used to translate these plates. I'm not going to go into that process right now. If ordered to do so in a court of law, I will. I'll tell you the exact process. I will explain everything in real truth, exactly how this book was written and who actually wrote it. Because it wasn't Christopher and it wasn't Joseph Smith who wrote these things. Granted, we used our English skills, whatever we had available to us at the time, to put together the story in the English language. That was our job. We were recruited to publish the narrative of the gold plates, both in 1830 and in 2004, as a complete set of the gold plates of Mormon Moroni. Now, let me back up. This is what's going to come out. Pearl Publishing, now, as you will find, I have, being the proprietor of the gold plates, the author of the sealed portion, exactly like Joseph Smith Jr. was the author and proprietor of the 1830 Book of Mormon. There shouldn't be any discussion about that because that's exactly how it is. That was what we were supposed to do. There should be no argument about that, and there will be no legal argument about that. All one would have to do is read this complete set of gold plates. Because what I was required to do, back in 1828, when Joseph Smith started, Joseph Smith had a guy named Martin Harris helping him to be his scribe. I didn't need a scribe. I had a computer. I had a word processor. Joseph Smith had a scribe. His name was Martin Harris. They were able to transcribe in Martin Harris's handwriting, a little bit in Emma Smith's, 116 pages, which the LDS Church report as lost. They claimed that this was lost. So the Book of Lehi, the first 116 pages of the handwritten manuscript, when Joseph Smith started with this very first plate right here, and it wasn't the title page. Joseph Smith wrote that title page. Well, the people who wrote the Book of Mormon wrote the title page. And that's some more proof. When was the title page actually written? When you read it properly. Anyway, the 116 pages of handwritten manuscript, this was a translation from Joseph Smith. Joseph Smith translated this through the process. Remember the process that I talked about that I'm not going to explain. I used the exact same process. In a court of law, if it comes down to that, I will explain the exact process that was used. Through this process, Joseph Smith gave the words to Martin Harris. He gave 116 handwritten pages in Martin Harris's handwriting mainly. Joseph Smith was allowed to have Martin Harris organize, for wants of a better way to explain it, a peer review group of what they had written to see how people would receive what was written. Latter-day Saints and anybody out there, if you believe in God and you believe that Jesus Christ is in control of this work, in control of something on this earth, do you actually think the God of Jesus Christ would allow this manuscript to be stolen or to be lost? That's absolutely ridiculous. Well, unfortunately for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, this manuscript was not lost. It was actually taken and held secure by the true authors. Could that be the angel Moroni? Well, I'm going to get to that in just a minute. Remember, God would never allow this to be lost. The main purpose for which they wanted this 116 pages to be lost was to bring empirical evidence that indeed this man, Christopher, is actually the current proprietor of the plates. Because if Christopher has the exact same means and process by which Joseph Smith translated the unsealed part, then he could very well start again and use this process to retranslate the 116 pages, the Book of Lehi, which I did. The Book of Lehi has been translated. Therefore, soon this book will be published to the world, folks. This book, the complete set of the gold plates of Mormon Moroni, will be published to the world as it was written. All the verses and chapters will be taken away, and it will be presented as the story it was meant to be. Then all a person needs to do is simply open that book and read it as the story it was meant to be. And then one will be able to tell for oneself whether or not this Joseph Smith and this Christopher are charlatans, whether or not this was made up, whether or not this was doing something to con people, because it absolutely was not. All you got to do is read the book. Now, here's the problem for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and I can bring up so many details of how this church defrauds the world. The LDS Mormon Church is fraudulently sending tens of thousands of young missionaries out into the world, claiming that the Book of Mormon is the keystone of their religion, the Book of Mormon. And they ask people to read it. But one must question, do they read it? Do these missionaries read this book to see what it's about? Because in the Book of Mormon, there is condemnation of who are called the Gentiles, of the people who will receive the Book of Mormon in the latter days. Mormon writes about the Gentiles. These are the LDS Mormon people. These are who they are, the Gentiles. And the Book of Mormon is filled with very clear condemnation for the people who will receive Mormon's record if they don't do the right thing with it. If they do the right thing with it, then the other part of the Book of Mormon, it contains some beautiful prophecies of things that would happen because of this Book of Mormon, some incredible prophecies. Well, unfortunately for the Latter-day Saint Gentiles, they have defrauded the world and told the world that the complete Book of Mormon is the only Book of Mormon. They are actually trying to present to the world that there was no sealed part. They have taken the bands off the facsimiles that they used to present the gold plates images in their advertisements. When you walk around their temple square, the missionaries are not allowed to talk about the sealed portion. Well, guess what? All one needs to do is read the Book of Mormon for yourself. And as you do, you will find out how this condemnation is grave and great on the LDS Mormon people because of the way that they have handled Mormon's Book of Mormon. It's clear and concise. Yes. Latter-day Saint Church, you have a choice. You don't like the word Mormon, and you've asked your people in the world not to consider you as Mormons, but to consider you as Latter-day Saints. Well, what you are doing is defrauding this world by presenting the Book of Mormon to people that can hardly read, and most of your members have never read the Book of Mormon. And your leaders who have read this book, supposedly, cherry-pick the scriptures out of it so that you don't see the condemnation that is obvious and clear inside the 1830 Book of Mormon, the condemnation of the Latter-day Saints. There couldn't be a more evil church on this earth. And when I talk about evil, I'm talking about the ability of a church, a worldwide organization, to deceive people about what is actually contained in the Book of Mormon and completely teach a different gospel, a different doctrine than what is taught in this Book of Mormon. I am mandating, as the proprietor of the gold plates, for you to stop this. I'm giving you this first public warning to stop lying about the Book of Mormon and the sealed portion. Because your church is on shaky ground now because of the sealed portion in the 1828 Book of Lehi that has now been retranslated. Because there's no one on this earth that's going to be able to challenge the translation of this other parts. The Latter-day Saints are deceived or held in great bondage by their pride and their ego, believing that the Lord God would never allow their leaders to mislead them. It was a leader who said this. The Book of Mormon is replete and full of stories of the wickedness of the members of the church. How a non-member or a person who used to belong to the church had to be sent as a prophet to the wicked church to command that they repent. I am giving you the first public warning, Latter-day Saint Church, that if you do not stop using the Book of Mormon to convert people to your church, because what you do is you defraud people. They read the Book of Mormon because they believe in the Bible. When a person believes in the Bible, they have stories about Jesus Christ, and the stories are very profound in the New Testament. But when one reads the Bible, and then one reads the Book of Mormon with a sincere heart and real intent to know if they're really true books when it comes to religion, one will find out that the Book of Mormon is another word of God. It's very powerful, spiritually powerful to the people who believe in the Bible. But what Mormons do, what the Latter-day Saint Church does, is a bait and switch. The moment that you pray to God and God tells you that the Book of Mormon is indeed another word of God, they tell you that you got to be baptized in their church, that their priesthood authority, that only in their church, in the Latter-day Saint Church, can a person find the saving ordinances, the salvation ordinances, the priesthood ordinances. That's what they tell you. They are wrong. They couldn't be more wrong. I have more priesthood authority in the fingernail of my left pinky finger than the entire body of the general authorities of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. All one would need to do is put me in a room with them, and you will see. Well, you have the testimony of a person. You have a testimony of an incredible individual to help you, Latter-day Saints, to learn what she learned about the sealed portion, about me. I'm not sure what that means, Joseph Goodhart, with the moon going there. I want to mean that means that it's the moon, and it doesn't mean that you're bored with this. Anyway, regardless of if you are or not, let me show you, world, one of the most courageous ladies that this world has ever known. And I changed my social media account on X to a picture with me and Ida Smith, because Ida Smith is paramount to this entire work, because she read that sealed portion long before she met me, and she tried to take this sealed portion to her friends. She worked for the prophet, seer, and revelator of this church now, Dallin H. Oaks at Brigham Young University. She established what was called the Women's Institute at Brigham Young University throughout the 70s and 80s. She was the head. And after Ida Smith found the sealed portion and found out that there's a huge difference between this guy right here and the general authorities of that church, her friends, the senators, Orrin Hatch, Robert Benton, and her family. She's a direct descendant of Hyrum Smith. She saw the difference. She knew the difference. And all she has ever told anybody, just read the books. And that church shunned her and excommunicated her for doing that. Her testimony is out there on the internet. It's profound. It's wise. It's incredible. All you need to do, Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, is stop using the Book of Mormon. Stop it. Do not use the Book of Mormon in your missionary efforts. Because if you do, there is a chance that you will be taken to court and you will be tried in front of a jury about the fraudulent way that you are presenting the gold plates, the story of the gold plates, to the rest of the world, how you are defrauding them. We have proof of what your leaders say during your priesthood meetings, during your worldwide conferences. Fortunately for me, those who recruited me, whether they be angels or otherwise, had me sign over the legal proprietorship, legal ownership to Pearl Publishing. Pearl Publishing is a legal publishing company that owns the right to all of my writings, including the sealed portion of the gold plates, including the 1828 book of Lehi. Pearl Publishing has a legal team. It is no longer up to me whether or not Pearl Publishing uses their legal team to pursue a lawsuit against the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints to stop the fraud that they're perpetuating against this world. It's not up to me. It's up to them. Pearl Publishing stems from what's called from the trust that Ida Smith set up in 2009. In 2009, Ida Smith set up the Irrevocable Purpose Trust, called the Marvelous Work and a Wonder Purpose Trust. I was the original trustee. Of course, through a series of events with corrupt court proceedings and a corrupt judge, I had to give that up. I no longer am the trustee. I haven't been since the end of 2018. Now, what is the purpose of this Irrevocable Purpose Trust? The purpose of this Irrevocable Purpose Trust is in the amendment in Schedule C, the purpose of the trust. Look whose name is at the bottom of this, who established this trust. The purpose of this trust is to accomplish the work known on the internet and in publications offered thereby as a marvelous work and a wonder. And the Worldwide United Foundation, which is now transformed into the Humanity Party. The MWAW Trust is controlled by the trustee. It is not controlled by me. I have no legal authority, nor do I give any advice for what this trust does. My job is simple. I take the information through the processes that I have to give the people of this earth the information that I have, and I give it to Pearl Publishing, who is managed by this trust. How it's done and how all this happens, I don't even know anymore. It's not up to me. But I can tell you this. If Pearl Publishing decides one day, because of the things that might be said about me as a person or about them as a company, if they decide to legally pursue a lawsuit against the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, it will be a very strong lawsuit, because on their side, they'll have me as a witness. And I will explain perfectly the process by which I was recruited to translate the sealed portion of these gold plates, which was the same process that Joseph Smith, the same people, same way that Joseph Smith was recruited. I'll explain it all. The Latter-day Saint Church, you don't have to do this if you stop using the Book of Mormon. Why even use it? Because nothing that you teach, listen closely, nothing that the Latter-day Saint Church, Mormon Church teaches has anything to do with the doctrine of the Book of Mormon. In fact, the Book of Mormon itself, we're talking about the 1830 Book of Mormon, and the sealed portion expounds upon that. The Book of Mormon condemns genealogy as evil. It condemns all genealogy, the baptism of the dead, the baptism of those who die without law, as an abomination before God. And there are many other things that the Book of Mormon condemns. One of the greatest things that the Book of Mormon condemns is the way that the church uses its wealth, the way that people use their wealth. Nothing could be further from the tenets and lessons taught in the Book of Mormon than the LDS doctrine on these items. And one need only read the unsealed portion and the sealed portion, and they will find out that these eternal family units that they have invented are not only not in the Book of Mormon, they are condemned in the sealed portion. They're condemned by God. They're condemned, if I might for a moment, by Adam and Eve, the first parents, who, if we have any type of family unit at all, we're all part of the same family unit. And these little units that they have, everything that the LDS Church is doing has brought this church under incredible condemnation. Why is it so important? If you're a person who's not a religious person or you don't care and you're wondering, why is this guy coming on in the Mormons? Why not just leave him alone? Really? They have taken the story, the narrative, the truth, the real truth about the gold plates, and they have defrauded this world. They're using fraud to get people to join their church. Because you cannot have an eternal family unit. You cannot do what God wants you to do, the LDS God, the God of this world, unless you give 10% of your income as tithing. You listen up, church, and you listen wisely. Stop using the Book of Mormon. You don't need it. Because anybody who reads the Book of Mormon will find out that genealogy is condemned. Baptism for the dead is condemned. The wealth, accumulating wealth and doing with the wealth what you're doing is condemned. The eternal family unit is condemned. Tithing in this principle is condemned. The building of temples, the ostentatious way you do it, condemned. The Book of Mormon condemns the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, as clearly as can be, unlike anything else. Condemns it. And all you need to do, world, is read the Book of Mormon and you'll see for yourself. You don't even need to read the sealed portion. It's not necessary. Just read the 1830 Book of Mormon. This unsealed part right here. That doesn't have the 116 pages retranslated. We have all that. Read it. Just read it for yourself. And if you're a missionary out there, read the Book of Mormon for yourself. You take that promise of Moroni to heart. When Moroni tells you to ask God, read it for yourself. Ask God in sincerity. And if you do, you study the Book of Mormon, you'll find out how important this marvelous work and a wonder is, how important the sealed portion is, exactly what is going on with this work that hardly anybody knows about. Read it for yourself, and you will see how condemned you are. I could take you through the Book of Mormon right now. I'm not going to. It'll bore most people, but it's profound. It is clear as the sun at noon. Clearly condemns the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Clearly condemns them. And members of this church, you listen for one moment. There's a reason why your corrupt and deceptive leaders do not want you to talk about the temple endowment presentation that you see. Because if you did, next time you go and you pay attention. For God's sakes, pay attention when you go through your temple and you receive that so-called endowment. And you will find that once Adam and Eve were kicked out into the lone and dreary world by Elohim and Jehovah, Elohim and Jehovah no longer had anything to do with Adam and Eve. They had no contact. They did not know one thing that was going on. When Adam, who is actually the god Michael, and Eve or in the lone and dreary world, you're talking about mortal life. There is only one entity, one God, one entity that hears and answers prayers given by the words of your mouth. Lucifer, the God of this world. And when the time came for when Joseph Smith wrote this play to help the LDS people learn that they're being under condemnation, you look at the time when Lucifer looks right into the camera and tells Peter, who represents the true messengers, Peter asks, how is your religion accepted by this community? And Lucifer looks right into the camera, right at each one of you Latter-day Saints, and says, fine by them. You are being deceived. I don't know what's going to happen in the future because I have alienated myself from the world, even from the MWAW Trust and Pearl Publishing. I do not make any decisions for them and what they do. I will be their star witness. If they decide to take action against the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, you can stop this action because Latter-day Saints, I want you to think of something. It doesn't matter if there's a judge sitting on the bench there. Here's a judge sitting on a bench, with his gavel and stuff. This judge, more than likely, even in the state of Utah, if it's brought in the state of Utah, but it'll probably be brought in federal court, he can be LDS because we're going to ask for a jury. We're going to ask for a jury of our peers. And guess what we're going to ask the jury to do? Read the complete set of the gold plates for yourself. Listen to my testimony and give us a good verdict, and we will prove beyond any shadow of a doubt that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is fraudulently deceiving this world. You have been warned. That's all I have to say to the world and to the church today. Let's get back into the private class. Anybody who wants to come to Ertel, come to the classes. They're open to anybody. Critics and enemies, anybody can come to these classes because it's in these classes that I talk about the mysteries of God. And I reveal the mysteries of God in their entirety.